Hello again everybody, welcome to episode 2, Taxi Takeoff and Climb to Cruise in the TFDi Designs MD-11 for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Welcome back folks, hope you found episode 1 useful. We're continuing here as we left off for the previous episode at Memphis for our flight to Dallas Fort Worth. We've already done all of our before taxi checks. All we need to do is put the taxi lights on and then head towards the runway in this remarkably cool, quirky jet. So in the overhead panel we're going to flick the nose light to taxi like so. Parking brake can come off, and we want to press Prof, profile armed, and nav armed. We're going to apply a little bit of thrust and test the brakes and begin our taxi out to the runway. So for those of you familiar with the MD-80, the MD-82, MD-83, MD-88, this has a lot of the quirks that carries over from that aeroplane. And that's something to bear in mind when we're operating it. I'm going to turn the transponder to TARA now, and we're going to, as we taxi, think about our before takeoff checks. For departure we want to make sure the anti-ice is set up carefully, so wing anti-ice off, engine anti-ice as required. Stab trim, we check in the green band and we're on the configuration page as we are. Spoilers and brakes armed. Brakes set to takeoff for RTO. And all the bugs are checked as well. We've got our altitude, heading and speed all set. Prof and nav are armed. Taxiing on idle is pretty effortless in this. Once you get a little bit of motion, the aeroplane will just carry itself quite merrily along the taxiway, depending on your weight. If you're super heavy, sure, you might need a little bit of power to help you along. And taxiing's quite easy. Let the nose wheel come over the centre line. In this, the nose wheel is actually fairly set behind the flight deck. It's kind of more in line with the doors than it is the flight deck window. So you will find that you will carry your nose over that yellow line before you begin the turn. And that is okay. Approaching the hold then, we're going to make sure we're in idle for the throttles and gently apply those brakes to the hold point. We can set the park brake at this point in time and then consider some of the other checks before takeoff. So we're going to line up and wait. Initially we're going to pop all of the nose lights on. We're going to put runway turn off lights on and the high intensity aka strobe lights on as well. Make sure again you've got alt report switched on and your transponder set to TARA, and that you've got your prof and nav modes armed like so. Park brakes off, we'll begin the lineup, so a little bit of power to get us rolling. And we're going to line up nice and gradually. Use a little bit of brakes, nice and slow. try and get the aeroplane neatly on the centre line for our takeoff roll. Okay, holding her on the brakes. We're going to set the throttles to about 70% or thereabouts. Once we're happy, we're going to press auto flight once. That's arming the system. You see the change on the the TFD there, showing autopilot off, but takeoff now armed and takeoff clamp with prof and nav armed. Takeoff's active. We'll release the brakes and we'll press auto flight again. Which will begin to advance the throttles to our takeoff thrust. Speed's alive, power's set, maintain the centre line, 80 knots. Takeoff clamp is on the PFD. And we're going to rotate around 12 to 15 degrees, just gently. V1. Rotate. Positive rate, gear up. Now you might find, like we just then, it's incredibly sensitive in pitch. It's just something we'll need to get used to. Perhaps even set your profiles up specifically to be a little less sensitive for the aeroplane. We're going to, on the range here, press decrease a few times. We're just going to follow the flight director as it wants to do its thing. We're going to press FMS speed, auto flight. And then we're going to bring the slats and flaps in. So initially, we're at dialer flap 25. We're going to move the flaps to 0. And then when you see SR, you will see that is a slat retraction speed for our climb out. So as we pass that and it goes green, we then bring the slats to 0 as well. We can disarm the ground spoiler. And we can disarm the auto brake. So gear, no lights, spoilers have been disarmed, auto brake selector is off, flaps and slaps up and retracted. And we've got no alerts on the EAD. Coming up with 1000 until we level off. You can see alt hold is now armed, but we're going to continue to spin the wheel and aim for a climb all the way to our cruising altitude today. Flight level 340, sorry. And we'll make sure we're in prof mode. So if you scroll the wheel and accidentally knock the vertical speed mode like I did there, you can press prof again and it'll ask you to go into, well, it will set itself up as climb thrust. As we climb away, through 10,000 feet we'll turn the landing lights off, and we can also increase the range on our nav display so that we can see a little bit further ahead into our route. And you'll see there, at the bottom it says 40, that's an 80-mile range ring, and the inner circle there is 40, the smaller one. Through 10,000, landing lights, nose lights, runway turn-off lights, all off. If you're in the passenger version, maybe turn the seatbelt signs off, and the aeroplane is accelerating up to our climb speed as well in the modes that we've got selected currently. Then we just continue all the way up to our cruise altitude, and that's it. Fairly simple introduction into taxi, takeoff and climb through to cruise in the TFDi design MD-11 for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Hit like, hit subscribe, and join us for episode 3 as we discuss descent. an ILS approach, and then all of the stuff after landing through to shutdown. Hope you're enjoying the series so far, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Take care.